What was your I'm dating married to a freaking idiot moment?
So, we were about a year into our marriage, and my husband had always been a bit scatterbrained, but this incident really took the cake. I was working late, and he was in charge of dinner. I came home to the smell of burnt plastic. Walking into the kitchen, I saw my husband standing there, staring at the microwave. Inside was a plastic container, melted and warped, with a charred mess of what used to be spaghetti. "Honey, what happened?" I asked, trying to stay calm.
I don't know. I just put the container in to heat up the spaghetti and then it started smoking.
It took everything in me not to facepalm. "Did you take the lid off the container?" His eyes widened.
You're supposed to do that?
"Yes, dear, otherwise the steam has nowhere to escape, and the container will melt." He looked genuinely puzzled.
But it's microwave safe. It says so right on the bottom.
I sighed and rubbed my temples. Microwave safe means the plastic won't release harmful chemicals into your food, not that you can leave the lid on and expect it not to explode. He blinked a few times, then looked back at the microwave.
I thought microwave safe meant you could just throw it in there and it would be fine.
"Have you never noticed how I always take the lid off, or at least leave it ajar?" I asked, trying to suppress a laugh. He shrugged.
I thought you were just being cautious.
I couldn't help but chuckle at his innocence. "Well, now you know. Please, next time, take the lid off. And maybe stick to using a plate." Story 2. A couple of months ago, I asked my boyfriend to feed our cat while I was out running errands. He's always been forgetful, but I figured he could handle this simple task. When I came back, I noticed our cat, Mittens, acting really strange. She was meowing loudly and rubbing her face on the floor. I checked her food bowl and saw it was full of kibble, so I asked my boyfriend what he fed her. He looked confused and said,
I gave her the food from the blue bag, just like you said.
"We only have one blue bag in the house, and it's my boyfriend's protein powder." He had fed our cat protein powder instead of her usual cat food. Mittens was fine after a trip to the vet, but that was definitely my "I'm dating a fucking idiot" moment. When I confronted him, he was still holding the blue bag.
This is the cat food, right?
He asked, shaking the bag and creating a small cloud of protein powder. I snatched the bag from his hands. "No, this is your protein powder. The cat food is in the pantry, clearly labeled." He scratched his head.
But this was on the counter. I thought you left it out for me.
I took a deep breath. "I was making a smoothie before I left. How did you not notice the difference? Protein powder doesn't look anything like cat food." He shrugged.
I thought maybe you got some new fancy cat food.
I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of the situation. "Well, next time, please check the label. Our cat is not on a high-protein diet." To his credit, he felt terrible about the mix-up and apologized profusely. He even went out and bought Mittens a new toy to make up for it. Now, every time I see that blue bag, I can't help but chuckle and shake my head.
Story 3. My wife and I recently got a new router, and it came with a set Wi-Fi password. I wrote it down on a piece of paper and left it on the kitchen counter. A few days later, she called me at work, frantic because she couldn't get online. I asked if she tried the password, and she said she did, but it didn't work. I told her to read it out loud to me.
"It's not working."
She repeated.
"I'm typing password, just like it says on the paper."
I nearly dropped the phone. Sweetheart, it doesn't say password. It says password. ABC 12,345. You're supposed to type the part after the colon. There was a long pause.
"Oh,
Just try it now," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. A few moments later, she sighed.
okay, it's working now, thanks."
That night, when I got home, she sheepishly handed me the piece of paper.
I thought it was just some sort of placeholder.
I couldn't help but laugh. No, it's the actual password. A placeholder would say something like, "Your password here." She rolled her eyes.
Okay, I get it now."
Since then, we've had a running joke about the time she thought password was the password. Every time we set up a new account or device, I make sure to remind her to check for colons. It's a little things, but it's become one of those moments we laugh about whenever we're trying to set up anything new. She's a brilliant woman, but technology is not her friend.
Story 4. My husband and I were getting ready to leave for a weekend getaway. I asked him to put the suitcases in the car while I finished packing a few last-minute things. A few minutes later, I heard a loud crash. Running outside, I found the garage door halfway up and our suitcases scattered all over the driveway. The scene was chaotic. One suitcase had burst open, spilling clothes and toiletries across the concrete. Another was wedged awkwardly under the half-raised garage door. Its handle snapped off. "What happened?" I asked, trying to make sense of the chaos.
I don't know.
He said, rubbing his head.
I hit the garage door opener, but I didn't realize it was already up halfway. And then I backed out too soon.
I looked at him, then at the mangled suitcases. "Did you even look before you started backing out?" He shrugged.
I thought it would be fine.
I took a deep breath. "Next time, please make sure the door is fully open before you back out, and maybe keep an eye on the suitcases." As we gathered our things, I couldn't help but think of all the other times he'd done something similar. Like the time he tried to jumpstart his car with a paperclip, or the time he attempted to use duct tape to fix a leaky pipe. Despite all the headaches, I still loved him. He always meant well, even if his execution was lacking. At least he kept life interesting. As we finally got everything packed and the car loaded, I turned to him. "Ready to hit the road?" He grinned sheepishly.
Yeah, let's go.
I chuckled. "Just be careful, okay?" He nodded, and we set off on our adventure, leaving the garage door fiasco behind us. It was a reminder that, despite his occasional lapses in judgment, he always had a way of making life a bit more unpredictable and entertaining.
Story 4. Last winter, my wife decided to wash her car in the driveway despite the freezing temperatures. I told her it wasn't a good idea, but she insisted it would be fine. The next morning, I woke up to her yelling from outside. I ran out to find her car completely encased in a thick layer of ice. "What were you thinking?" I asked, trying not to laugh.
"I didn't think it would freeze that quickly,"
she said, looking genuinely surprised. We spent the next 2 hours trying to defrost her car with hair dryers and hot water. As we worked, I couldn't help but think about all the other times she'd done something similar. Like the time she tried to dry her shoes in the microwave, or the time she attempted to dry clean her coat by putting it in the dryer with a fabric softener sheet. Despite all the headaches, I still loved her. She always had the best intentions, even if her execution was lacking. At least she kept life interesting. As we finally got her car defrosted, she turned to me and said,
"Maybe next time I'll just go to the car wash."
I laughed and kissed her on the forehead. "Good idea, sweetheart. Good idea."